introduction. We start the retreat straight. The topic of the retreat is given as Swabhava and Swadharma. Correct? That's the topic given. I'm reminding myself now. Not for you. They have this. Every time I walk in, they will be saying, "This is the topic today. This is the topic today." It doesn't matter. I come, whatever comes, somewhere will connect to the topic anyway. So the topic Swabhava and Swadharma. The word Swabhava means one's own nature. Again, the word Swabhava means one's own nature, and when that nature is supported, guided by Dharma, it is called as Swadharma. So the mathematical formula would be Swabhava plus Dharma becomes Swadharma. So 3 words. First we will introduce these 3 words and then we will go into the discussion. The first word that we want to introduce is this Dharma. The second word is Swabhava, and then we will try and cover the Swadharma, just the definition of the words, and then we will go into the details later. So first we will introduce with the word Dharma. All of us are familiar with the word Vedanta, because that's what we have been studying for long, and we are very familiar with the first meaning of the word Vedanta. Veda means knowledge, Anta means the end. Therefore, Vedanta is called as the end of knowledge. And whenever you hear this word end of knowledge, first question you should ask is, what is the beginning of knowledge? That's the first question you should ask. I tell you, in the last so many years, only 2 asked me, "Sir, before go to the end of the knowledge, tell us what is the beginning of knowledge." Because it says Anta means the end. If there is an end, there is a beginning. So knowledge has a beginning and knowledge has an end. So it's called Veda Anta. Now technically we go into the details. We start with those details first. So technically it is called Veda, knowledge, and that Veda has 2 words, Purva and Anta. Veda Purva and Veda Anta. Veda Purva means the beginning of knowledge. Veda Anta means the end of knowledge. So knowledge itself has 2 parts to it, the Purva and the Anta. Now this Purva and Anta, the common word is Veda. Now first, what does this Veda means? Veda means knowledge. What is that knowledge? Veda is the recordings of the truths of life as it was revealed to the great sages. Again, Vedas means the knowledge that was revealed to the rishis. So whatever the truths of life got revealed to the rishis, they started documenting it. When they started documenting it, that whole body of knowledge that got documented is called Veda. And that Veda we divide it into 2, the Purva and the Anta. So if you put it on a board, it will be very easy to follow. No, I don't do that. I don't do that. I said people should follow mentally. No, I don't do it. It's so easy to. It's so easy to put. I said no. It will be much more easier for people to follow. I said no. I will repeat it 100 times so that they will not forget. So when they go out, they can never forget. So what is this Veda? Veda means knowledge. What is that knowledge? The knowledge of the truths of life, the law of life as it was revealed to to the rishis. Rishis means the great ones, the great sages. Now, when it was revealed to them, they started documenting it. And they started documenting it in a language that was specifically created to document the truths of life. Again I repeat, the Vedas got revealed to them as the truths of life. Now the truths of life, they started documenting it. Now when they started documenting it, you need a language in which you can document. So a specific language was created for that purpose. The specific language that was created for the purpose of documenting the truths of life is called Sanskrit. Therefore you find most of the scriptures would be written in Sanskrit language. Remember, the truths of life wasn't revealed in Sanskrit language. When they documented it in Sanskrit language. Because truth doesn't reveal in a particular language. For no language has a monopoly on the truth. It can reveal in the language of Africa, it can reveal in the language of Japan, it can reveal in any in the truths of life is not doesn't have a monopoly over language. But what they did, a specific language was created to document this. That language is called Sanskrit. In English, they call it Sanskrit, but the actual pronunciation is Sanskrit. We don't call it Sanskrit, we call it Sanskrit. The very meaning of the word Sanskrit means well crafted, well created, well made, perfect. The very meaning of the word Sanskrit means this: well created, well crafted, it's a perfect language. Sanskrit means perfect language. That's why all Indians will be having at least two languages known to them. One language is Sanskrit, another is the local language. Now when we study the scriptures, we will study the scriptures in Sanskrit. When we interact with each other, we will not interact using Sanskrit. We will interact using whatever the local language is. Now I come from one background called Tamil, so I use it. Now I go to a different state, some state uses Telugu, some state will use Hindi, Marathi, whatever be it. But when it comes to the scriptures is documented in Sanskrit. The very meaning of the word Sanskrit is well. So the very word Sanskrit itself has a meaning. For example, if I were to ask, what is English? What is the meaning of the word English? Have you ever explored that? We don't know. We don't have any other job to do, we sit and do all this. If we have other jobs to do, we will not do that. We don't have nothing to do. What to do from morning till night? You wake up in the morning, how do you have to spend the day? No, so we sit and do all these things. What is the meaning? You will say English is a language. Now you are talking about the utility of the word. Now you are not defining what that word is. Sanskrit means it's a complete knowledge, pure knowledge, which need not be added or deleted. Sanskrit means a perfect language where no additions will happen, no deletion will happen. Now all other languages, additions and deletions keep happening. One. Second, why we don't use this language on everyday transaction is because when knowledge get used on an everyday transaction, meanings keeps changing. When knowledge is used on an everyday transaction, the meaning keeps changing. Not only the meaning keeps changing, you can bring in your own meaning. So many things keeps happening. For example, take the English language with which we are communicating now. You think in English and then you speak in English. Supposing you are thinking in a different language and talking in a different language, there will be a lag. Why I am saying all this is there will be a time lag sometimes when I talk. because I have to think. I'm trained to think in Sanskrit, but I speak in English. So it's, sometimes live relay will be 10 seconds delay. So why? When language comes into a everyday basis, the meanings keep changing. If the meanings keep changing, every generation will find it difficult to interpret and understand the scripture, or every generation will start giving their own meaning into it. Therefore, they kept it very clear that the words should not change. The meanings, therefore, the knowledge, the continuity, the purity of the knowledge is maintained right through. Simple example I'll give you. We drove into this place. It's a beautiful place. 100 years back, if you had to bring the person who knows English and ask him to describe the beauty of this place, he will say, "Oh, this place is awful." You know that? Today, you bring the person and you will say, "Awesome." Awful and awesome meanings have changed. Now imagine you have to communicate the truths in a language that is prone to change. Not only it's prone to change, opposites meaning keeps coming in. For example, even in our own 40 years, the meanings have changing. 40 years back, whenever we have to use the word intellect, we can freely use the word intellect is that which discriminates. Freely we could use the word discrimination in 80s and 90s. Today we have to say intellect means that which discerns, because discrimination means it's the word. Now in 40 years it is changing. Now imagine another. When we studied in school, according to us, the word cool has only one meaning. What? The word cool means, when you studied in school, what is the word cool means? Only the temperature. It has got nothing to do with the mental state of a human being. Isn't it? Today, be cool. Are you asking the person to go into the refrigerator? or I don't know, ice room. What do you... So, in the ancient days, they wanted to ensure that communication is maintained very clearly. It means certain rigid rules were brought in, certain things were kept so intact. Therefore, how the Upanishad was taught and understood thousands of years back, we could still retain the same Upanishad in the same verses and still understand. How the Gita verses was 6,000 years back, is still we have the same Gita verses. So what they did, they gave the freedom. What is the freedom they gave? You are not to tamper with the original commentary, you do whatever you want. So every human's creativity was allowed in the commentary, but no one was allowed to touch the original. Are you okay till now? Even if by mistake somebody touches the original, the whole verse will collapse. We will come to know this fellow has tampered with it. We will know that. Therefore, it's such a wonderful way of keeping the knowledge alive. Why so much of math and science and everything went into preserving this knowledge in a very strict manner? Because the knowledge is not talking about something which is of ordinary sense. This knowledge is talking about something which is the Supreme. And when you are talking about the Supreme, you have a tremendous responsibility to keep it very. You can't just come and use liberal words to talk about the Supreme. Why? Because most of the time you may not communicate it rightly, but chances of miscommunication is more. Therefore, what is the miscommunication? For example, that's how I started the session. Veda Anta, the end of knowledge. Glorious definition. We also clap and go. Nobody turns back and asks, what is the beginning? What we are going to do now? Because we are all masters of Anta already, we start with the beginning. So what we are going to do now, we are going to discuss Veda, as in the Veda Purva and Veda Anta. Now what is the fundamental difference between Veda Purva and Veda Anta? Veda Anta is supralogical. It's not illogical. Logical, and then there is another word called supralogical. Supralogical means that which transcends logic. Again I repeat. There is illogical and there is logic, and then there is something called supralogical. And Veda Anta takes that stance of supralogical. That's why it says either you understand or you don't understand. No, it has no time to explain anything. So all the explanations, the logic, the reason analysis, etc. comes from Veda Purva. For whatsoever reasons, the great masters like Vivekananda, Ramatirtha, when they started talking about this in English, they started using this word Vedanta so much that in the modern day context both got mixed up. Therefore, now what we are trying to do, we are trying to understand the sequence with which the knowledge goes. What is the sequence with which it goes? The sequence is this. Veda Anta has a logic which is distinct and different. Veda Purva has a logic which is distinct and different. To put it in a very simple way, what is the difference between Veda Purva and Veda Anta? Veda Anta will tell you, pure you are already, you don't have to do anything. Just stay quiet. For all actions are born of. Veda Anta will say, don't do anything. There is no need to do anything. Just knowing is enough. And what you need to know? What you need to know? You are the supreme reality, that's it. The education starts there and the education ends there. Nothing is clear, isn't it? Nothing is clear. Then what happens? Then from Veda Anta, it comes down to help us to prepare to come to Veda Anta. So Veda Purva is a preparation to come to Veda Anta. This is the sequence. So Veda Purva is a preparation to come to Veda Anta. Now when Veda Purva preparation is spoken about a lot, what generally happens? There will be a tendency to get involved in that practices. Those who got involved in the practices, the Veda Anta start with, carefully follow the sequence. Again I repeat if you don't follow. So Veda Anta starts with ridiculing the practices of Veda Purva. That is the starting point of Veda Anta is ridiculing the practices of Veda Purva. Ridiculing not because it is useless, ridiculing because you got involved in it. Are you able to understand the difference? The practices is not wrong, your involvement in the practices is wrong. Therefore, they start ridiculing the involvement in the practices. Because you have very less access to the knowledge, language, etc. Generally, people started criticizing the practices themselves. Practices, where the Purva says the practices are very, very necessary. Why? Because without these preparatory practices, you can never come to the ultimate. The Veda Anta literature is of two. One is the Upanishads and another is called Brahma Sutra. Don't worry about all, I'm just giving the background. We are not going to study all that. Why I am studying, why I am saying all this is, it's very important to know this to come to the understanding of what we are going to study as the Swabhava, Dharma, Swadharma, etc. If we have to understand all these things, we need to know what is the scientific historical background behind this segregation and this body of knowledge. Once you understand this, the way in which you will start looking at the Vedas will be completely, the way in which you start looking at it will be completely different. That's why without a break, session after session after session, because that much of brainwashing is needed. That's why no breaks will, but where, no, 4 classes in a day. I said I want to do 6 classes, but people get tired, so I'm restricting it to 4, I said. But concentration span. Make them pay, they will pay attention. That's all. Very simple way to, the very simple way to keep the attention is make them pay. They will pay. If you say don't pay, nobody is going to pay attention. Very simple, basic tricks of the trade. So 4 sessions, how will you do that? No, that much of brainwashing required to make us get convinced in. We are all convinced about the utilitarian aspect of the knowledge, but we don't have the bigger picture of the knowledge. Now, what we are trying to do in this retreat is we want to present the bigger picture. And once you get a clarity on the bigger picture, the way that you go back to it is very, very different. Now, Vedanta means Upanishads and Brahma Sutras. These are the 2 books that talks about Vedanta. Upanishads has about, roughly, if you put all the Upanishads put together, it's about 2000 mantras. And Brahma Sutra is 555 formulas. One of the fascinating books of Vedanta is Brahma Sutra. Sutra means formula. Formula means it should not exceed 3 words, 4 words. You can't write one whole paragraph as a formula. Formula means you should not exceed 3 words, 4 words. Now, if it should not exceed 3 words, each and every alphabet is important. Formula. That's how these Vedas have been kept. I get very excited talking about all these things. You understand formula? Formula means it should not exceed 3 words, 4 words. Now, if it can't exceed 3 words, 4 words, each and every alphabet becomes very important. If each and every alphabet is very important, the science and math of language must be that precise, that perfect. That's why it's called Sanskrit. Well made, well preserved. Perfect, what you call as a perfect language. And what does this Vedanta talk about, the Upanishads and the Brahma Sutras? The very famous formula that we know is Tattvamasi. Tattvamasi is one of the formulas. That Tattvamasi tells you, you are that. And the very typical Oriental style, they will always talk in 3rd person. They will never say naturally also. Even when we talk, as he come, they will ask. Now, who's that he? Why can't you say the name? Isn't it? The very typical style of the language is, of the highest language is, it will always addressed in the 3rd person. Very difficult to decide, because you need to make an effort to decipher. Why? Because we have such a obsession about this buddhi. In Vedanta, we have such an obsession about developing this buddhi, the intellect. we don't want to restrict to only 1 hour of in 24/7 of our 24/7 that we live. We need to be constantly applying. So what they did, the language was designed like that, the rituals is designed, everything is designed around that principle. Therefore what they did, Veda Anta spoke about the highest. People turned back and said, correct sir, what you are saying is perfect, we understand that, but when I go back, it's not actually helping. I am able to appreciate it, I am able to understand it, I am able to appreciate it. When I go back, it's not helping. Then came the much larger textbooks, which is called the Dharma, which comes under the category of Veda. From Veda Anta, we have come one step below now. Where have we come? Veda Purva means the beginning. What is the beginning of knowledge? The beginning of knowledge starts with educating us on the law of life. First I use the word law and then we will move on to plural, laws. What in English we call as laws, in Sanskrit we call as Dharma. So when you combine your individual nature plus Dharma, you get a combination called Dharma. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna starting point is Swadharma. Because it is implied that in those days these words were very much in practice and application. He could straight away follow what he was saying. Not only he could follow straight away what he was saying, even when Krishna was using the same different words to mean the same thing, Arjuna was able to follow. It's a very classic teaching method. For example, there is this thing called Karma Yoga. He introduces Karma Yoga in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 as Buddhi Yoga. See, I am using all these words very liberally, assuming that you all have studied all this to some extent. When I walked in, I asked Radhi, what should I know? Who are they? How are they? No, they all have been studying for a while and all. Then I said, very easy. But we say everything we have to, by the time we explain these basic things, only retreat time gets. So, what he says as, how he introduces Karma Yoga in verse number 39 of chapter 2? He doesn't use the word Karma Yoga, he calls it as Buddhi Yoga. If you literally translate Buddhi Yoga, if you don't know the language technicalities, and if you literally translate Buddhi Yoga to English, how would you translate? Yoga, we understand. Buddhi means intellect. Therefore, you have to translate it as intellect yoga. But sir, we have got only Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga. What is this new thing called? Intellect yoga now. He uses it as Buddhi Yoga. And Buddhi Yoga is meant as Karma Yoga. How would you justify that? That's where it gets so exciting, it gets so interesting also. Buddhi Yoga is what is meant as Karma Yoga. When you go to chapter 6, he will use the word Sannyasa Yoga to mean Karma Yoga. And you feel like telling Krishna, are you clear? First of all, before teaching us, please get your ideas correct and come. Don't keep using. What he calls as Sannyasa Yoga is what is called as Karma Yoga. If this confusion is not enough, he goes to chapter 12. In chapter 12, in some verses, I am just doing it now in my Chennai regular classes, I am doing that. He uses the word Bhakti Yoga in chapter 12 to mean Karma Yoga. Now what would you do? How would you even know it? How do you even understand? But then, he just doesn't say it. the clues he leaves, the language, the concepts makes it very, very clear. Therefore, what happens now? We come down to Dharma, which is the beginning of the preparation. What is the beginning of preparation of Veda Purva? It starts with Dharma. First we will introduce the word Dharma today. Not today, for today means next few minutes. What is the word Dharma means? That which holds everything together is called Dharma. That which holds everything together. Dharanat iti. That's a Sanskrit root. That which holds everything together, that which keeps everything together is called Dharma. And then we say, no, that's not the full stop, comma. That which holds everything in harmonious coexistence is called Dharma. Because English word you have to use so many things. In Sanskrit when we say the word Dharma, all this goes in our head by default. So Dharma simply doesn't mean the law. Dharma means that which holds everything together. And when it holds everything together, it holds everything together in harmony. Therefore, Dharma is that which keeps the harmony in existence. The harmony in life, the harmony in existence is because of Dharma. Then we look back into life, there is no such thing called Dharma at all. Because there is no harmony only. Harmony in business, harmony in relationships, harmony between parents and children, harmony between, I don't know. So, looks like there is no such thing called Dharma at all. Because the harmony, there is nothing that is keeping the harmony together. And yet Dharma means the law that which keeps everything together harmoniously. And these laws got revealed to them. And when it revealed to them, in the way that it got revealed, they started documenting. Are you okay till now? All scriptures in the world are called revealed. The laws got revealed to Moses, they say. Correct? All scriptures are revealed, not made. Again, did the law got revealed to Moses or Moses wrote it? The Testament says it is revealed. Now, if it has to reveal means you need to be in a specific framework of internal development to receive it. Why it is revealing only to that and not to the rest? Isn't it? Then the question is, why is it very selective? Why it is only revealing to that person and not revealing to the rest? It is very discriminatory now. Because even that has preferences. No. The law is there always for you to contact that. You need a specific internal maturity. Those who had those internal maturity, they are able to tune in with it and receive these laws, and they started documenting it, not for their welfare, for the welfare of us. Remember, documenting is not done for themselves, because for them they have already gotten the maturity, they revealed it, they know it, they could have simply said bye bye and left. They could have done that. They didn't do that. That's their greatness. That's why every day we prostrate to the rishis. All that we are going to discuss. Later on we will be discussing tomorrow. Why we prostrate to the rishis, the great sages, every day is because they gotten it and they could have simply gone. They could have simply said bye and left, but they didn't. They took so much of effort to create this language, they took so much of effort to put in all this into a sequence where we call as the Vedas, the scriptures, the Shastras. Knowledge is revealed to the first person. Rest of them parrot it. You know that? That's how it grows. The knowledge always reveals to one person, the rest of it parrot. Why the law of science is revealed only to the scientist? Why it didn't reveal to the rest? There is the law of science, correct? There is the law of gravity. Was the law of gravity came into existence after Newton or before Newton? It was there from when? It was there from when? From the beginning. It means what? We understand there is a law that was there even at the beginning of creation that is keeping the harmony together. Now what is this Veda Purvas talking about? The Vedas talking about what are those laws? Now the question is, why it got revealed only to Newton and not to the rest? What is the difference? He was searching for it. He was preparing himself for it, ready to risk his life to know that. Correct? He was preparing himself for that. He had a search for it. He had a thirst for it. He was preparing himself to receive it, and not only that, the readiness to risk their life for that knowing. It gets revealed. All knowledges gets revealed like that. People say most of the discoveries are accidental. They say penicillin, antibiotic was discovered accidentally. No, I say it's against the law. Why that accident has to happen only to that person and not to the rest in the creation? Remember what I am asking? They say, all discoveries happens. He was trying to do something else got discovered. They say, it accidentally it happened. No. What is the proof? What is the logic to say that? Why that accident has to happen to only that single human being and not the rest? Why only that person and not the rest? Because that person is tuned. That person is tuned to receive it. They tuned themselves, they received it, and they gave this knowledge out. Therefore, the knowledge that keeps the knowledge that was there from the beginning of the creation is what we call as Dharma. In the modern day context, the word Dharma is misunderstood as morals and ethics. Again I repeat, in the modern day context, the word Dharma is not understood as the law that preceded the creation. If it has to be from the beginning, means what? The creation itself is guided by the law. How do you say that again? Was creation chaotic in the beginning or is it orderly from the beginning? If you say chaotic, then chaos is the original nature of creation. Harmony can never exist. Because you can never get out of the original nature. A slave is a slave because freedom is the original nature. Then only the person will be wanting to get out of slavery. Supposing slavery is the original nature, would you even know the opposite of it? The fact that you are knowing the opposite of it means what? It was there. What was there? The creation was harmonious from the beginning. But sir, that's not how we see it. No. Wait. You are seeing the changes and you are getting carried away by the changes, and the changes you are calling it as out of harmony. You see the changes. What is the changes? When one galaxy is dying, another galaxy is born. When something dies here, something is born elsewhere. This is how the cycle is going. At any given point in time, Dharma teaches you to look at the entire cycle. If you look at the entire cycle, now the question I am asking again, is creation chaotic or harmonious? But at any given point in time, if you take one bit of it, it looks like it is chaotic. Are you able to follow? It means, first thing we are convincing ourselves is what? The original nature of creation is the true nature, the original nature of creation from the beginning is harmony. Remove human beings from the creation and look at the creation. Is it chaotic or harmonious? Remove human beings from the creation. Imagine, there are so many things that say, if human beings move away from this place, in 10 years what will happen? In 30 years what will happen to this place? In 100 years what will happen to this place? Is it chaotic or that's how creation is? It is harmony by intrinsically creation has harmony. Therefore, what they started doing, what these great sages started doing, they started identifying with the harmony and they started understanding harmony not from human beings' life. They started to understand harmony from nature and the other species. That's how that's where the thinking started. They didn't start understanding harmony from human nature. They said, temporarily keep aside human beings for a while. We'll come back to the humans later. Anyway, the problematic species. We'll come back to that later. First if we have to understand it, understand from what is it, that's where we say, other than human beings, creation doesn't know. Creation doesn't know. Creation doesn't know chaos. Creation doesn't know chaos. Creation doesn't know depression. Creation doesn't know depression. Only human being knows it. Then we started discussing what is the difference between human being and other species. All that we are there, that's where the swabhava comes in. Why? Because everything in creation seems to follow a pattern. What is the pattern? The deer wakes up in the morning, the lion wakes up in the morning. Both don't feel insecure. Correct? The lion wakes up in the morning, not knowing whether it will get its food or not. The deer wakes up in the morning, not knowing whether it will see the sunset or not. But both don't go through depression. They don't go through worry and anxiety. It means what? There is something that is subconsciously, unconsciously protecting them. But sir, animals also go through depression, sir. Correct? Only when they come in contact with human beings. Any animal trained by human being will go through depression. You know that? Nothing in the jungle goes through depression. You bring but I can't say all this nowadays because otherwise, people say you are not animal lover, you are not a human lover, you are not this lover, you are not that lover. What to talk now? You bring. Now you can't even say dog, no? You can't say dog, you can't say cat, you'll be sued for that, you'll be shot also for that. I don't know what to say, isn't it? Now, you bring them and keep in contact with you, it picks up your trait. What? You go sad, it gets sad. In the jungle, do they go through sadness? It means creation is not there like that for them. Are you able to follow what I am saying? I am not saying don't have dogs, cats, please. You do what you are. Dharma, there is something called Dharma anyway, it's there. That's all. Whether you like it or not, there is a thing called Dharma. But we take very good care of them, no sir? Correct. Imagine somebody does that to you. First thing you will do, take them away from human species. You are a human being. Now first thing I will tell you, I will take you away from you. It means what? You will not be allowed to contact other human beings. But you will be given a house, you will be taken to the spa, you will be given a house, you will be taken to the spa, and you will be taken to the vet also. But one thing will not be allowed is what? That's love, no? Narayana, God only knows what that kind of. Now, in their life, there is no such thing called depression, sadness. They also go through hunger, they also go through pain. Remember that. They also go through hunger, they also go through starvation, they also want to take care of the little ones, they also want to reproduce, they also want to, everything they also want to do. But one thing they don't go through, what? Depression. I am so old now, it's not worth living anymore. Can I commit suicide? No lion can think like that. You know that no other species can think of suicide? And human beings, at least minimum once they would have contemplated it. Why? There is something which is so unique here. What is unique here? Somewhere down the line, the law is not being followed. Somewhere down the line, we are doing something that is creating disharmony. And then we are ready to do anything to get into that harmony. Now this is where Dharma comes in. Veda Purva comes in with the fantastic knowledge. Are you able to understand the background till now? I am only giving the background. God, 1 hour over almost. Only giving the background as a preparation for getting into what is this Dharma means. So what does Dharma means? The law that keeps the harmony. Now it becomes very clear now. What becomes very clear? Wherever there is disharmony, it is implied. What? Wherever there is disharmony, it is implied. What is implied? Full stop. You are not following the law. It means we need to know what the law is. First thing, we need to know what the law is. Number 2, do you have the freedom to tweak the law? Do you have freedom to change the law? Modern days, AI technology has come. So, with all the modern advancement and technology, we should be able to tweak the law. Later on, we will see in the evening, there are 2 kinds of law. One is a human-made law, another is Dharma. There are 2 kinds of law. One is the human-made law, and then there is another thing called Dharma. Now we are talking about Dharma. So what is Dharma now? That which keeps the harmony alive. Dharma means that which is responsible for maintaining the harmony. Again, this is the definition of Dharma. Dharma means that which is responsible for maintaining the harmony, not creating the harmony. There is harmony already. It's not from chaos to harmony. If chaos is the original nature, harmony will be very frustrating to you. Chaos is frustrating because harmony is the original nature. Are you able to follow the logic? Very simple logic. It's not calculus. No, it's a very basic law. It is. If chaos is natural, harmony will be very frustrating. We are all seeking harmony because chaos, confusion, sorrow is unnatural. This is the background. So first I want to give a clarity on the word Dharma. Now what is the definition of the word Dharma? The law that maintains the harmony. Law means two factors. Law means two things. What are the two things law means? What are the two basic factors that goes into a law? Do's and don'ts. Law means what you should do and what you should not do. No, sir, human beings, we don't like it. We don't want do's and don'ts. Dharma comes and says there is a law. Law means do's and don'ts. So first it has to tell you what is the do's and what is the don'ts. It doesn't stop there. Also it has to tell you what is the benefit of following the do's and what are the consequences of violating the law. So it talks about the benefit of following the law, and it also has to talk about the consequences of violating the law. Are you okay till now? From now we start the basic analysis from now. When you are obeying the law, there is a mental state of happiness. When there is violation of the law, there is a mental state of agitation. So we work from that angle now. Now where are we working from? If you are obeying the law, you have a specific mental state. If you are violating the law, you will end up having a specific mental state. That specific mental state is called Sukha Dukkha. Sukham and Dukkham. That's where in Bhajagovindam we study it as Dukkha Nivritti and Sukha Prapti. When we introduce Bhajagovindam, another textbook of Vedantic literature, we say the Dukkha Nivritti and Sukha Prapti. So the benefit of following the law is Sukham. The consequences of violating the law is Dukkham. Sukham means joy, sorrow. Sukham means joy, happiness, bliss. Dukkham means sorrow, agitations. To experience this Sukham and Dukkham, you need to be in a specific context. That specific context where you experience Sukham and Dukkham is called hell and heaven. These are all words that we need to know. If you have to experience Sukham, you need a specific context. If you have to experience Dukkham, you need to have a specific context. So that specific context where you experience Dukkham is called hell. The specific context where you experience Sukham is called heaven. Swarga, Naraka we say. So don't worry about this Sanskrit terms. When I say don't worry about it means I'll keep repeating it so much you will remember all this. So funny to see all these guys answering in Sanskrit words. I get very excited. I ask question and when they that's how brainwashing is. I get very satisfied. I ask a question, Riyas, and if you answer in Sanskrit word, I get very excited. So like that these people are. Others will how do they, from where they learnt all these words, they come and ask me. Bombardment. Give food, brainwash. Give food, brainwash. In between give tea also, coffee. When you follow the law or when you violate the law, you have a mental state called Sukham and Dukkham. To experience that Sukham and Dukkham, you need a context, you need an environment. That place is called hell and heaven. From all this, there is one thing very clear. What? Dharma is harmony. Your mental state is dependent upon how much you are aligned with Dharma or how much you have moved away from Dharma. This is where the knowledge of Vedas start. The modern day person says the mental state is not decided by Dharma, then my mental state is decided by others. The politicians decide, the environment decides, but something, sir. What is the reason for unhappiness? If anybody were to ask you what is the reason for unhappiness, they will never say the reason for unhappiness is violation of the law. But sir, this is very bad, this is very cruel. Why? I didn't even know there is the law. No. I didn't even know there are these laws. How can it come on? The creation tells you ignorance of the law is not an excuse. This is where the law is so impartial. The Dharma is so beautiful because there is no it is an impartial law. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. Because so you can't say, oh, I didn't know that red means stop. Can you say that? You can't say that. I didn't know red means stop, green means go. No, I don't like red and green. I don't like. So to me, I have decided green means stop, red means because I have my freedom, sir. I can decide. No, correct. You can decide, but then you can't come out of but you can't even get out of the bed. Why? Because there is this law. Are you able to follow? So first thing it talks about is what? Your mental state is decided by whether how much your life is aligned with Dharma or not. Your material success is determined by the skill. Your mental state is decided by the alignment with Dharma. Again, your material success is related to your skill. Your mental state is related to Dharma. Now here we are talking about the mental state in this session, isn't it? You can be a highly successful person and be agitated. It means what? Skill and that has no skill and Dharma, there is no correlation at all, isn't it? One. Second, law means restrictions. This is where human says, I don't like it. Education is required to explain to you this restrictions is not to bind you, this restrictions is what will liberate you. This is where Veda Purva is very important. Veda Purva will not come and tell you all restrictions are useless, get rid of all restrictions. Vedanta will come and tell you that. Veda Purva will come and tell you restrictions is to help you. Restrictions is not to bind you, suffocate you. But then we understand restrictions. Discipline means binding, suffocating. Why? Dharma equals a discourse on freedom versus discipline. Dharma is an analysis. Dharma is an analysis. Dharma is a study on the interconnection between freedom and discipline. Do you become free through discipline or you become free by violating the discipline? Again I repeat, This is where the starting point of Dharma is very important. Everybody wants freedom from restrictions. Who want to be bound? Everybody wants freedom from restrictions. Now, that freedom is through discipline or is freedom through overthrowing the discipline? What does common sense tell you? What does common sense tell you? Huh? We have two answers, sir, for this question. For others, it is through discipline. For me, I can do whatever I want. So you don't ask questions without learn to ask correctly the question. Does it work like that? Freedom and discipline, Dharma comes and says, is two sides to the same coin. The first session is what? This is the point. Freedom and discipline is two sides to the same coin. One who is disciplined deserves freedom because it's two sides to the same. Now, what does discipline means? Discipline means you obey a law irrespective of what? Whether you like it or not. You may agree, you may not agree, but the law is there. Other species live in harmony because they don't have a choice to violate the law. Human beings are so unique. Other species don't have a freedom to violate the law. We have heard this any number of times from Swamiji. No dog can eat when it is not correct. Only a human being can eat even. Only a human being can eat even when he is not hungry. Why? Tasty. They will feel bad, sir. That's why after having full lunch, you visit somebody and they give samosas. Samosa itself differ from parts of the country. You come to my city in India, Chennai, and you go and buy a samosa, Chennai samosa we call it as. And you know what is the size of the Chennai samosa? It's a carom board coin. So small it will be. Nothing inside. One onion and one potato skin. That's samosa for us. You go to the other side of the country, samosa is like the size of the football. So big. One samosa is so big. Now you eat fully at home and go and visit and they give you two samosas. You can still eat. So the freedom that human being enjoys requires a deeper understanding. That's why this knowledge becomes that important. Because freedom, human being has freedom. The first time you experience freedom, what will be instinctively what you want to do? First time you are given freedom, instinctively what will you want to do? Indulge. Instinctively you will want to indulge, instinctively you will want to be indulgent because you have been restricted. The child is waiting to become an adult. The child is waiting to become an adult. Why? What all manipulation it has to do for an ice cream from the parents. All that it wants is an ice cream. So, and what all manipulation, crying, what all it needs to do for that one. So, when it is suffering so much because of lack of, and then it thinks what? once I become an adult, I'll be free. It becomes an adult. The child will want to behave like an adult, and the adult behaves like a child. That's why you say, you ask anybody, what is the best period of your life? Childhood, sir. If childhood is the best period of your life, and if you are a really loving parent, you should not allow your child to grow at all. They should be permanently be a child. Why? Because that's the best period. No. Why do we want them to grow? There is an ignorance in that. The child is happy, but in that there's a time bomb ticking. What is the time bomb ticking? Ignorance. You want them to grow fast. Why you want them to grow fast? Because you want them to grow out of their ignorance fast. And the only thing that we know is what? If we make them skillful, they will grow and they will have a happy mental state. That's the expectation. The reality is this. A human being, two stages. There are only two stages of a human being. What are the two stages? Illiterate, agitated, depressed human being to literate, agitated, depressed human being. There are only two stages to human being. One is illiterate, agitated, depressed. You can go on adding. I have restricted to these two. Another kind of human being is literate, agitated, depressed. It means what? One kind of education is not giving you what you actually seeking. What is it that you are seeking? The mental state that you are seeking is not coming from that. It comes from a different kind of the knowledge. That different kind of the knowledge that gives you the mental thing is called Dharma. Veda Purva talks about it. Veda Anta will come and tell you there is no mind. Vedanta will come and tell you there is no mind, you are unnecessarily wasting your time in these retreats and all. Because there is no such thing called mind only in the first place for you to do all this. Correct. How nice it will be. But then when you go out, one phone call is enough. Isn't it? One phone call or one SMS or one phone call that didn't come is enough. One phone call that can come can bring all the mind back, or one phone call that doesn't come can bring all the mind back. It means what? The Veda Anta education is not actually helping us to deal with the no mind is not helping us to deal with the problem. Therefore, Veda Purva comes, the Dharma comes and tells you, first deal with it, then we will transcend it. First learn to deal with it and then transcend it. First is you manage the disease and then transcend the disease. Correct? First thing is what? You manage the disease. Only when you are able to manage the disease, you can transcend the disease. Ultimate aim is to transcend it, but then you can't straight away do it. You need to go through the process. And that process is called Dharma, and that Dharma asks you this question: freedom or discipline? Dharma comes in this. It's not either or. It is two sides to the same coin. The senses listen to you very fast. The eyes, you tell the eyes, don't see and close your eyes, it will not see. You tell the mind, stop. It doesn't stop. You can put one plug here and insulate yourself from the sound, isn't it? But you tell the mind, stop. It doesn't stop. And all attempts of human being is to deal with this, to deal with this mind. It means you need to know two things. What are the two things you need to know? What is the mind and what is the law that governs the mind? Remember that. It's not just knowing the mind alone. Two things you need to know. What are the two things that you know? You need to know what is the mind. Distinct and different from that is the law that governs the mind. It means the mind must necessarily obey the law. So two things you need to know. That therefore the Veda Purva starts with two distinct approaches. The first approach is what is Dharma, it will talk about. Another approach is the human anatomy, it will start with. Two distinct approaches it takes. When I say two distinct means both are essential. One is what is the law that governs the life which the mind has to understand, accept, obey. That is one part of the explanation. Another part of the explanation is the anatomy of the. Now in this classroom we are not going to discuss the human anatomy till we come into Swabhava. We are not going to discuss the human anatomy till we come into Swabhava. First we are trying to understand the law which the mind must understand and obey. How do you know that? We all talk about mental control, isn't it? With this, we stop the discourse for this morning and then we'll continue in the evening. Everybody talks about mental control. There is a pain and you tell the mind, don't feel the pain. There is a pain. Okay, take a simple example. Suddenly, a tiger comes into this room. It is not going to come, I'm assuming. Suddenly the tiger comes into this room and it is growling in front of you. And you are telling the mind, don't get frightened. And it's not listening to you. It means you lack control. Are you able to follow? Supposing if the tiger is there growling in front of you and still you are not frightened, it means what? Oh, that person must be blind, sir. Otherwise, how can you? Are you able to follow? Dharma brings in this first possibility and tells you it is possible. What is the possibility Dharma tells you? Even if there is a cause for much sorrow, in that situation also you can be relaxed, which is what we want. Even if there are so many causes around us that can give us sorrow, we don't want to be sorrowful. Correct? People come and say, the only way is close your eyes temporarily. That's why all our entertainment is nothing but forgetting. You go for a movie for what? You want to forget it. Because you open your eyes, you see the sorrow. You want to, now you tell the mind to stop, I want to sleep. And the mind is wide awake, thoughts spiraling, not even allowing you to quite, and then everybody talks about this mental control, and if there are million people, there are million methods of mind control, isn't it? Somebody will come and say breathe in and breathe out, mind will come under control. Somebody will say you have to have organic food, your mind will come under control. Somebody will say stand on your head, when you have 2 legs to stand, your mind will come under control. Many methods of control is given. Carefully follow. Vedas accept those methods. Veda Purva accepts those methods and say it is a first aid method. That's where the Veda Purva has pranayama as a science. Where do you get the science of pranayama? From the same Vedas. It says it has it doesn't dismiss it as useless. It says it has a first aid effect. You understand first aid effect? First aid effect means it can aid you temporarily. Temporarily means it will work for a few days. Fifth day it will not. Fifth day it will not work. And then you need to go to another method. You need to go to another. Thus, various methods the human mind goes on seeking, finally comes to a conclusion. What? Nothing will work, sir. Nothing will work. In fact, Arjuna asks this question. When Krishna talks about the mind and all this dharma, the violation of dharma, what causes, Arjuna turns back and says, can this mind actually be controlled, Krishna? He asks. Do you remember that question? Does anybody remember that question? Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asks a very beautiful question. Krishna, I understand your discourse. In fact, I know more than you. If you give me a platform, I can speak much better. But then, can it actually be controlled? Krishna smiles and starts all over again. Because what to do now? It has to repeat itself again and again and again. There is one beautiful Vedantic book called Yoga Vasishta. In that Yoga Vasishta, Lord Rama is the student and Vasishta, the guru, is the teacher. Now the conversation between Rama and Vasishta is called Yoga Vasishta. And so scared to refer these books because immediately there are, where do you get that book, sir? Where can we download it? I say you download it, but you will not understand head or tail in that book. That's why we liberally, I quote all the books that is material from. Immediately can I download and I say yes, you can download and get it. But then they'll read 3 weeks later, they'll come and say, but what you are saying is not there at all, sir, in that book. That's how I keep the control, no else. That's how we keep. So in Yoga Vasishta, there is a beautiful the introduction to Yoga Vasishta. Rama asks this question in this congregation. Is there anybody in this congregation who has actually controlled their mind? He asks. Dasharatha's assembly is full of great men. He is not talking in it's full of great men, including his father, mother, everybody is sitting there. Rama asks this question. Is there anybody in this congregation who has actually attained to this control? And then he looks back and says, I don't want textbook answers. He said, I don't want textbook answers because I myself know those textbook answers. But is there anybody who has actually done it? The great sage Vishwamitra gets up and says, Rama, there are only 2 in this congregation has attained it, he says. There are only 2 people in this congregation who has actually gotten it. I was like, wow, 2 people here. One is me, he says. And I tell you, when he says it's me, you feel like prostrating to that man. Vishwamitra says, one is me, another is Vasishta, your guru. But then, tradition is you learn from the Kula Guru first. What your guru cannot teach, you go to another guru. Because all the gurus are not all. There's somewhat you cannot go to the other guru. But then, Rama, you have such a wonderful guru, Vasishta. And Vasishta will speak, Rama will listen. Then he puts another condition. Nobody should talk, he says. Nobody else in this congregation should talk. And there's a beautiful conversation. It's called Yoga Vasishta. Ramatirtha, Ramana Maharshi, all these great masters, they say, whenever they talk about Yoga Vasishta, they say, you read this book once, you will get enlightened, he says. Don't worry, just 32,000 verses that book is. How many janmas it will take to finish that. And it is true, you read that once. Once you read 32,000 verses, obviously you will get enlightened only. 32,000 verses, Yoga Vasishta. You read this book once, you get enlightened. Ramana says that. Vivekananda, before he became Vivekananda, came to see Ramakrishna Paramahansa, his guru first. Vivekananda talks about it in one of his lectures. What I am quoting is what Vivekananda says. He went to his guru and started asking him some questions. Ramakrishna said, don't ask me too many questions, I am old, I can't hear, talk and all. Take that book and read a few verses from that book. He says, I have a book, I'm old, I'm having cataract, I can't see, I don't understand what your question, just read these verses. And he says, when I started reading those verses, I started trembling, he says. And Ramakrishna is saying, continue. He wants to. Why? Because it's like speaking, so clearly it is speaking. Preparation has been happening already, has happened already. There are millions who have been listening to that book. Nothing has happened. Why? Because transformation requires preparation. Preparation requires knowledge and understanding. What is that knowledge and understanding? Two things. One is Dharma, the law. Another is the mind. That Swabhava becomes the mind, the law becomes Dharma, and then you combine the both, Swadharma. Again I repeat, Swabhava is the anatomy of the individual, the mind. Another thing is called Dharma, which is the law. Now what you do, you combine the word Swabhava plus Dharma according to Sanskrit grammar, and I am not going to the Sanskrit grammar now because then it will look like grammar class. According to the Sanskrit grammar rules and regulations, that Swabhava plus Dharma changes itself into Swadharma. So first we talk about the Dharma, the law, and then we will talk about the Swabhava. The theme of the retreat is Swabhava and Swadharma. Both we are not talking. We started with Dharma, and then we will move on to the Swabhava, and then we will move on to Swadharma. So before you understand the Swabhava, the mind needs to have a clarity on the law. What is that law? It's called Dharma. And what are those laws in plural? We will take up in the evening session. We are going to talk about the laws first. Law means, I don't know, my accent is very difficult, I know that. My accent is not that easy for people to, I speak in English, you will hear it in some other language, I don't know what language you will hear, and I will say laws. In my head I am saying L-A-W-S, and how you will hear? L-O-S-S. Now all of us know why is he talking about laws now. Please understand, when I say Dharma, laws in plural, L-A. We'll meet in the evening.